that bridge is there to almost any tool that you use right now. Hi there, Kelsey Toner here, the founder of Guest Focused Tour Business Coaching, where every day myself and our team of incredible tour business coaches are helping you build a thriving, profitable business. Now, welcome back to our series on putting AI to work for you. If this is your first video, welcome. Highly recommend going back and watching these in order because they do build on one another. Now, if we have built out our AI brain, right, we built out some of the context, the next thing we need to do is connect that AI brain or the large language model into a lot of the tools that we use every day. Now, there's a good chance some of you who have been playing in this space have seen new connectors arriving all the time to ChatGPT, to Gemini, and to Claude. And this is where magic really starts to happen when we combine the AI brain with some of these connectors who can accomplish tasks in real time. You can think about it in this way. In this series, we've been building out your AI brain, your business profile processes, all that stuff. But a brain without a nervous system that connects out into the rest of your body, into the rest of your business, can't do anything. It might be able to think, but it can't act. Connections are that nervous system. They are what's going to let your AI reach out and actually touch and use the tools your business runs on. Reading your email, checking your calendar, pulling data from your booking software. Without them, your AI just sits there thinking, but with them, it can take action on your behalf. There are a couple tiers of connections and they get progressively more flexible. Let's walk through each of them. So tier 1 are the native connectors. These are the easiest, and most of the tools you're already using have built-in integrations that can be set up pretty quickly. You're probably familiar with those. Here I'm inside of Claude Cowork on the desktop app. There's a couple different ways you can get to them, usually from apps and extensions from the settings menu. With Claude, you can also manage your connectors right here. So here you can see I've connected Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Drive, our Slack is integrated. We have a plugin that allows Claude to use our Chrome browser, a PDF tool, and it allows us to read and write Apple Notes here on our computer. Keep in mind with Claude Cowork, you may have to set up these connectors separately from the online version of Claude that you've been using. Now, if we switch over to ChatGPT, you'll find that the connector menu actually looks very similar. We can go here to settings, and I believe it's apps, is what they call it here. And so you can see some of the enabled apps that we're using from Google Calendar, Google Drive, Slack, even connected in Zoom. And to demonstrate how easy these connections are, I can connect in Monday, which I didn't see there, but we use Monday to manage work and manage products. And the connection process is usually just a couple clicks where you'll be prompted to log in or authorize your large language model to use this particular tool. And you'll see here, monday.com is now connected. So as you can see, that's incredibly powerful. With just a few clicks and your login information, your AI brain can now be connected into your email. It can check your calendar. It could search your files. It can pull messages from Slack and potentially even manage your project management boards. It's that simple. When you first set up Cowork or any of these platforms, they do ask you to connect these tools, but a lot of people skip over them or maybe don't know how to connect in all the tools that they're using. But this is the moment when our AI goes from more generic to actually being able to do multi-step tasks for us. A quick note on privacy. Since we are connecting your AI large language models into real business tools, we highly recommend that you do use a paid plan. We can turn off data training in your settings. We covered this in detail earlier in the series, but the short version is the paid plan with training off, and you're in a reasonable spot. As with all of these things, it is up to your level of comfort. But by making your nervous system more connected into the tools that you're actually using on a day-to-day basis, your AI is going to move away from a chat interface that you're playing ping pong with back and forth to an AI assistant, an AI employee, an AI agent that's going to be able to accomplish things, accomplish multi-step, complex things for you and your team members. The second type of connectors, or tier 2, are things like bridge, API connections, or an MCP server. For example, your booking software doesn't likely have an AI plugin for ChatGPT. Your CRM may not either. These tools weren't built with AI in mind, and maybe they're going to be coming. So how do we connect them? Does that mean we just can't talk to them? No. And this is where something called an MCP comes in. MCP stands for Model Context Protocol, but you don't need to remember that. Think of it as a translator. Your booking software, let's say, speaks one kind of language, and your AI, large language model, whether that's Claude or Gemini, speaks a different language. The MCP sits in between and translates so they can talk to each other. Now, a lot of the tools you already use connect into a tool like Zapier or Zapier. And what's really powerful is that Zapier has an MCP. So if, for example, your booking software, your CRM, your payment system, maybe even your accounting system connects into Zapier, then you can bridge it into your AI or your large language model of choice. Your AI asks for information, the MCP goes through and gets it through Zapier and brings it back. You don't need to understand how that translation works. You just need to know that that bridge is there to almost any tool that you use right now. Okay, as a very quick demo, if you're wondering how to set up the Zapier MCP, you can find a YouTube video on it, but this MCP client by Zapier or Zapier is where we want to go. So if you head over to mcp.zapier.com, this will prompt you to log into your account. You will need a Zapier account. I believe even on the free tier, you can still use this MCP, which again is how we're going to connect into our large language model. So you can see here, I already have a Claude MCP server and one for ChatGPT, but you would go to new MCP server. In my case here, I would choose Claude because I'm going to use Claude Cowork, but you can see here how you can do this for any AI tool. Then over here, you would go to connect, and this will walk you through creating a new one. So connect to Claude, it's very similar. We just use this button here, add to Claude, and there's a nice visual walkthrough of how it's going to connect in. But the key step is here under configure. So hopefully, if you are using Zapier already, you have some of your tools connected in already. And if you don't, that's a bit beyond the scope of this video, but essentially in your Zapier account, you would connect in via API, maybe to your booking software, or connect in via an API connection to your CRM. So just as a demonstration, we connected in Calendly and Entreport. Entreport is our CRM, which didn't have a direct integration into Claude. Teachable, which is our learning management system, we didn't have a direct connection into Claude. So we were able to add these tools because we had already connected them in to Zapier. So if they're in your Zapier account, when you go to add tools, you will find them in here. And it really is as simple as that. So when we go back over to Claude Cowork, and then we look at our connectors, you can see here that through Zapier, I'm gonna have a whole bunch of tools that I can then leverage. So I can find an event in Calendly, finding a meeting recap, find a user. And if we scroll down, you'll see there are some write and delete tools, right? So from mark an invitee as no-show or cancel a scheduled event. And what's nice with any of these tools is on the right, you can adjust whether or not when this tool is used, it should ask you for permission before it takes an action. And that's a reasonably good idea for write and delete. As you get increasingly comfortable with these tools, you'll probably start shifting towards always allow for some of the more frequent things that you are doing, because that's what's going to allow that independent and agentic action. You'll get very tired of constantly approving things. So everyone has a different degree of comfort. You are going to find yours. Always start more conservatively. And you can, of course, block an action entirely if you just don't want it to have that power. Let me give you a real example. Let's say a guest emails you about a booking they made last week and they want to change the date. Without connections, you'd have to obviously go to your booking software. You'd have to look up the reservation, check maybe which guide is assigned to that tour, maybe opening a separate spreadsheet that lives inside of Google Drive. Maybe we're going to check our calendars, see if the new date works, draft a reply. That's 4 tools, 10, 15 minutes of tab switching. But with connections, you can now ask your AI tool, hey, can you look up this guest's booking and tell me what we've got? Your AI can pull in booking details through Zapier. It can check a guide assignment through a connection into maybe your Google Drive or a spreadsheet. Maybe it looks at that calendar through a different connection, all at the same time. That's what's especially powerful about Claude Cowork, is that these requests can all happen simultaneously, not one after another. Your AI is able to come back much more efficiently with everything you need in seconds and draft a response for you. Here's another concrete example of how I'm using Cowork here in Guest Focus. So we actually built a startup routine so that when I come in, I say, hey, it's Kelsey here, let's get started. Okay, let's get your session fired up. And one of the first things that it does for me is it goes through a startup routine where it checks my inbox, it checks my calendar, it goes through all of the Slack messages where different team members may have messaged and I might need to get back to them. And you can see here how it used each of these different tools to go and pull all of that information. Hey, Kelsey, here's your Thursday rundown, right? It recognized that, hey, we've already got our jujitsu done. All right, here's what's coming up in the calendar. We saw, hey, your best window for deep work is 12:30 to 3:45. That's about 3 hours. And as you can see here, it also looked through our task lists and quarterly priorities, and I was able to start work right away. But that was only possible because it had access to all of these different tools. And here's the really big unlock that I found using Claude Cowork, and no doubt, ChatGPT and Gemini and Manus and these other tools that are out there, they're going to start copying each other's features. So you might be using this type of tool inside of ChatGPT, but what I love about Claude Cowork is when I have these connectors in place and they're connected to my AI brain, it's not just read only. Claude Cowork starts becoming my AI assistant, a super powerful one, right? I can spin it up and send it off for a really complex project and it'll think it through. It'll leverage all of our context, our AI brain, and it'll leverage those connectors to get things done. But as the AI assistant, one thing, for example, is when I do that morning routine and I see, hey, there's these 3 people on your team that need a message back from you. I can have AI or me personally write those drafts right from inside of Claude Cowork. Meaning I'm not switching between tabs as many of our workflows traditionally have been to get all that stuff done. So I can draft those Slack messages right inside of Claude Cowork and send them from in there using that connector. Typically with Gmail, I'm having it create the recommended drafts so I can just go in and approve those drafts and send them. I can have it manipulate files and documents or spreadsheets. And so the Claude Cowork area through the power of these connectors is actually the main place where I'm getting things done, and I'm getting them done more efficiently because I don't have to go to 5 or 6 different windows and logins to get all the information that I need. And you may have seen the power of connectors without the AI brain. Maybe you're doing this inside of projects or whatever tools you're using. But this is where it gets really powerful because all of these brain files that we built earlier, well, our instructions can tell the AI which tools, which software, and which connectors we should use, right? It has the context that hey, this is our booking software. Hey, this is our CRM. It actually has links out to which files in our Google Drive folder might be our most up-to-date spreadsheet, right? Our team schedule is located here and it's always up to date. So when we ask the AI for something about pricing, it doesn't necessarily just rely on the static file that may be out of date, but it can point to, via these connectors, the places where it needs to get information that is changing or up to date. And that's the shift. Connecting AI nervous system into your brain isn't just faster at individual tasks. It's not just that it becomes, hey, I can do these things simultaneously, but it becomes your operating center. And remember what we said earlier in the series, if we learn to drive, any car works. So whether we do change tools in the future, they're all going to have some form of those native connectors or those bridge connectors, and we can upload our AI brain. Now, chances are you're not going to be moving those documents around. You're not going to be swapping your CRMs or tools quite as frequently as we are moving between different AI tools. But imagine running these tasks if our AI brain doesn't even know that what our booking software is, or doesn't really know that, hey, this is where we keep our guide schedule. So the two components work hand in hand, the AI brain, as well as that nervous system that goes out via these connectors. And as with anything, you don't have to go from zero to full integration with all of these tools overnight. Start with the native connectors, obviously. Things like your email, your calendar. Try and get comfortable with that. Start to learn with what's possible. And when you're ready and you want more connection, then we can start linking in our booking software, our CRM, maybe our Slack or communication channels, and we can build from there. Now, if you want to go gung-ho and connect them all in, by all means. Okay, so let's put this into action. If you've been following along and you want to see what's possible, we strongly recommend using that Claude Cowork app. It's going to allow us to take a few more steps in the coming videos, but keep in mind you don't need to use it. So our recommendation, use Claude Cowork. We've got our brain set up on the desktop. We're always going to use the same folder. Now let's fire up that nervous system and connectors. If you are using your AI brain in a project, maybe inside of Gemini or ChatGPT as an example, make sure we upload the brain and then tie those connectors into that project or into that AI tool. Once they're connected, the first thing to do, of course, is test it. Ask AI to check your calendar tomorrow or give you an overview of your week. Ask it to search for an email. I love doing that. I hate going back and searching through my email. The Gmail search function has just gotten more and more frustrating, but AI can pull out the exact information we need from any email that you want. Also, if you'd like to join a community of tour operators who are really leaning into AI and sharing what we're learning, you can head over to the Tour Business AI Lab, and that's at guestfocus.com/AI. We'd love to see you over there. I find the more that I play around with this AI brain and connector setup, the more like jaw-dropping moments that I have, the more light bulb moments or aha moments that we have. So I would encourage you to get in there and start playing around with this. Now, in the comments down below, I'd love to hear, what is your most used connector? Or is there something that you're doing through a connection into your large language model that you found super useful? We'd love to share some of those best practices down below. And like I said, give people some inspiration and motivation to maybe connect their tools in. I'd love to hear from you. Now, if you're getting value from this series, it would mean the world to us if you would share it with a friend or colleague, and we'll see you in the next video.